Hi, it's Kathy from Books at Bishopstone, and today I am going to do just a video about, well, mainly just about one book, but a second book an audio book that I listened to, which is a really short story, which the two of them kind of go together in terms of in the Gothic section. That might be the best way to put it. So the book I'm going to be talking about today is one that I decided to read because it is on the list, on the Gothic list, a Gothic classic. And I, strangely enough, had never really thought of it as a Gothic before. It's a book that I don't know. I don't remember having read it in the past. I may have read it. I mean, I know the story of it, so it makes me think that maybe I have read it a long time ago, but I just don't, I couldn't be 100% sure to say that I had read it, but I have definitely read it now. So it is, of course, Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. There are so many versions of this in terms of books, hardcovers, soft covers. Oh gosh, I mean, where do you go? Where do you start? Where do you finish in terms of book? I picked this one up at an op shop, and yeah, I was happy to pick it up and very happy to read this. I actually picked up the book, but I also then listened to the audio book version of it, which I absolutely loved. For those of you who don't know, you can probably tell here behind me, I'm a huge crafter, and sometimes to get through books that I really want to read, listen to, I will audiobook because it's just so much easier for me to do it that way. Otherwise, I don't have time to craft, and I can't craft and read at the same time, so it works out easier for me. So the book of the version of this book that I have is 441 pages long. As I said, I audiobooked this, and I don't know where to start, where not to start. So many people have written and done reviews on Rebecca that I don't feel that I'm really going to go into that, and that's not really me. Anyway, I'm just going to tell you my thoughts on the book, how I reacted to the book. First of all, loved it. Absolutely loved the book. I love the story. I love the characters. And I'm not going to go into an analysis about each of the characters in the story and all that kind of stuff. I did quite like the fact that you've got an unnamed narrator. You've got this lady who goes in, she marries a man, goes back to his country estate called Mandalay, and finds that she is living in the shadow of her husband's first wife, who died tragically from drowning in a yacht. That is the premise of the Gothic story. You have a woman the new wife, who is never named, and I don't mind that at all. I don't think it has any weight or doesn't detract from anything. I like the fact that we're seeing everything from her point of view, from her, I shouldn't say paranoia, but she's a young, naive lady coming in to be the lady of the house. I think for anyone would be a bit daunting, especially back in that era where things were, well, I guess class system was much more, well, I know it's alive and well these days, but it was even more alive and well back in the era of Rebecca. I just found this whole setting, of course, who is not going to love a country manor story? Well, I am going to absolutely love that. I love things set in the countryside, in manors. I do absolutely love that grand lifestyle kind of setting, I like the fact that you have almost like in a crime story, you have a closed circle. So this is a world of its own. And these manor houses were, they had a world of their own. They had their own staff. They had people who lived on site. There was a whole village going on there. There was people who worked for families for generations, who felt indebted to the family, who felt very what's the word? You know, they would almost lay down their lives for their bosses, for the lords of the manors. Sometimes you had really cruel lords, sometimes you had really nice ones. So I mean, this is all part of a kind of a theory or a kind of genre that I really love. So we have this closed world concept, so that's probably what I love about it. It's a closed world. We have an atmosphere that is created. Daphne du Maurier is great at doing that. I mean, one of her other books that I absolutely love is Jamaica Inn. Atmosphere, atmosphere, atmosphere to the hilt in Jamaica Inn. I didn't feel the same sort of foreboding atmosphere in this one, but I was drawn into the characters, and I was very much drawn into the whole world. So much so that when I finished reading this book, the next morning when I woke up, I was a bit of a loss. I was disappointed. I wanted to go on and join those characters and continue on. What are they doing now? Why, like, I wanted to join them in their daily life. I want to continue living with them. and the book was finished, so I wasn't able to continue on. So that to me is a prime example of a book that I just kind of absolutely, I mean, it just drew me in on all levels. I guess I might just touch on a couple of the areas that I think people talk about a lot. I didn't find the atmosphere foreboding. I found the setting and yes, it was kind of like, yeah, it was atmospheric, but I didn't find it claustrophobic. I didn't find it horrible. I didn't find it scary as such. And one of the ones that sticks in my mind is with the thought when she arrives at Mandalay, she comes up, they come up the driveway, and she goes past through a wall of rhododendrons. So big, huge, massive rhododendron trees with these, I think, what they described as blood red or red flowers on them. And I know that was supposed to be probably like a kind of heading into doom or heading into something, but all I could think was, because I absolutely love rhododendrons, I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, isn't this wonderful? I would love to have a driveway coming up to a house with big, huge, massive rhododendrons on either side, red ones even better. Oh my gosh. I was thinking, wow, this is such a great setting. I would love this. I didn't find it, I think some people have described it as being like, oh, it's setting the scene for, you know, the red of the blood, and blah, blah, all that kind of stuff. Well, I didn't feel that. I just felt like, oh my gosh, what a garden. What a garden. Oh my gosh. So, so I really liked it. I really enjoyed the part of the story where we've got the young naive wife coming in, and you can kind of like totally understand this concept that she doesn't just walk into her own new house with her husband and live a happy idyllic life. There are other people there. There are other servants who live in the house. There are people who seem to have much more gravitas in the house than she does. Same old kind of story, draws you in to her and her plight and her thoughts. I do like the concept that we're thinking, yes, what is going on, and how can a dead woman, the first wife, hold so much place within a house? And I love that concept. It's almost like a haunting without a haunting. and that, of course, is my area. I love that kind of concept. You've got someone who is dead, but yes, you never see her, but her presence is there everywhere. Ripe for a haunting. Absolutely ripe for a haunting. Love it. So many things. And Mrs. Danvers, who's the housekeeper, I mean, the portrayal of her is great. I could see her really well. I could just kind of like, oh my gosh, oh, why doesn't someone tell her to get back in her box? But of course, you know, you've got to have the bad characters, you've got to have the good characters, you've got to have the naive kind of second wife, you've got to have all those characters, and it works so well. I did find one bit grating, but that's only because this book was written a long time ago and attitudes and ideas, of course, have changed. But I did look back through to try and find the actual passage of this, but I can't. But so just forgive me for paraphrasing this. But the concept that when the second wife, the wife goes down to the beach and she finds the cottage, there is a young lad, not a boy, not a man, I don't know, you know, young lad there who I think that who's not quite, I don't even know how to describe it actually. I mean, what we would probably say he has an intellectual disability, but has free reign and kind of obviously lives and works kind of around the manor, one presumes. I did find it a little bit grating when her descriptions, and I can't, I wish I could find it in the book, but there was a description about his eyes and anyway, it was just the description that I kind of thought, oh, so inappropriate, and just found it quite grating. Because I think in my mind I was thinking, is she talking about someone with Down syndrome? And I have to remind myself, this is a book of a different time, but I still found it a little bit grating each time that she talked about him and his eyes. I just kind of, you know, but, you know, minor thing. I mean, I have come across a lot worse things and lots worse attitudes in a book than that. So if that was all I was kind of like picking holes in, then that's okay. You know, it didn't stop me from enjoying the book. Yeah, it was definitely a book that I'm so happy that I read it or reread it, whichever one it is. And yeah, really, really happy with it. And I guess there's not much else. I mean, if you haven't read it, I really reckon read it. And Gothic, yes, it's Gothic, and I love Gothic, and I am really interested in working my way through from the very beginning some of the Gothic books and going through. I will talk more about some of the older Gothic books as well. But the other one I'm going to talk about at the moment, very quickly, is a piece of paper here. I've got to write it down to remind myself. Was I also audio booked The Yellow Wallpaper. And this is quite a short story, and it is a Gothic horror. Well, it falls within the Gothic horror genre. That's what they call it. It is by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. Sorry for looking down. I've got to look at my notes. So she was born in 1860. So this was written, I think, around about the turn of the century then. So about 1900 or somewhere around, I think, I would take a guess. So Yellow Wallpaper, I wanted to read this because it is also Gothic. And the people talk about it all the time. So this is a story of a lady who is married. Her husband is a doctor, and I think the blurb says something along the lines of, as it says here, John is a physician. Maybe that is why I do not get better. And so, yes, her husband is a very well-known doctor, and he chooses some treatment for her unwellness, her mental health issues. Maybe these mental health issues are postnatal depression related. We know that there's a small child, a baby, that and she is placed into a room at the top of the house, like an old nursery type thing that has bars on the windows, and a bed, and some sort of shackling points up there and stuff. So this is a story of a lady who is in some sort of mental decline, becomes fixated on the wallpaper in her room, and also talks about the control of her husband. Now, we have an unreliable narrator here, because this is coming from a lady who, I think we can kind of, my take on it anyway, is that she is in some sort of mental health crisis. So how reliable is what she's saying? I don't know. I have read quite a few reviews about this that talk about the fact that her husband is over controlling, controls everything, has her locked away in this attic room, and how she, is fighting against this kind of reality. But then on the other side, I'm thinking, if she is in mental health crisis mode and her perceptions are a little bit changed, and her husband, being a physician of the time, thinking that he is doing something new and innovative, or trying to help her in a way when mental health was not understood, maybe it's not quite as dark and as sinister as maybe some people might want to make it out to be, or maybe it is. Who knows? Because we have an unreliable narrator. But the thing I found really interesting about the yellow wallpaper is the fact that I looked back into Charlotte Perkins Gilman's history, and she herself had a very, very similar history or story. She had a mental health crisis. She was actually, I guess at the time there was a new kind of theory around that you should have a rest cure, where if you're a woman, you were put away in a room, you was told to sleep lots and don't do anything, as in do not use your mind. So the author herself was put on this, I think for 3 months she was told just to do domestic tasks, not to pick up a pen, not to write, not to do anything artistic or anything that used her brain or mental abilities, and just rest, sleep, just be a fragile woman and get better. Whereas at the same time, this rest cure, if it was a male patient, they were told to go outside and get fresh air and go for walks and make themselves better by using having some physical stimulation and lots of sunlight and fresh air. But women, of course, were told no, to stay inside, sleep, rest, don't do anything that's going to overexert you. Well, we could go on for hours about that. And there's some really great discussions about that online if people want to go and have a look at that. So the yellow wallpaper, of course, it looks at a lot of things like colour and odour, the smell of the room, the smell. And of course, smell is a really important emotional trigger for people. Colour can also be a very emotional trigger for people. And it's one of the things I found quite interesting in the story was that the character says, you know, I got out myself. So she talks about how, and this is what the author also said, that she got herself better. She fixed herself. She did not follow what the doctors had said and felt that by not doing any mental stimulation, she was not getting better. It was not helping her. So she decided to start writing again and start doing stuff for herself, which she said she was able to then get better. She fixed herself. Thank you, male doctors, but no thank you. I will do it myself. Fantastic story of a woman overcoming kind of triumph. She actually, even the author herself actually sent her story to her doctor, who had sent, given her this rest kind of cure. And yes, so what happened there? Well, he never I think the story goes that the doctor never actually admitted that he got the story, but he did change his practices about this whole rest cure thing. So, and there was a lot of discussion about, like, a lot of people did look at it and doctors did say, oh, wow, that's a great description of mental illness, but it didn't really seem to change anything much at that time. So it was said to have it did give a voice to people who had mental illness at the time. Not a lot changed, even though doctors said it was a great description of mental illness. But getting back to the whole Gothic concept of the lady locked in the top room by a husband, a man, and getting herself out of it. Great story. Great. I mean, you can read whatever you want into it. You can view it from whatever angle you want to view it. And I love a story like that because, of course, you've got an unreliable narrator. But love it. I was really happy. So they're my two Gothic-y kind of books at the moment that I'm really happy that I ventured down that road. So if you're into Gothic, even if you have read them, either of those two stories, either Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier or The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman, if you have read them, but it's been quite a while, I would suggest go back and reread them or audio book them. Fantastic. I loved them. And I hope you guys did too. If you've read either of them, which I'm sure most of you have, just leave a comment. Just leave a comment and let me know what you thought. Which ones did you like? What was your take, especially on The Yellow Wallpaper? I'd be interested to know which way people took that. And I'm going to continue with my little Gothic little trope. But my next little video is actually going to be coming back to crime, a couple of older crime books that I have read recently, and I will talk to you about those. So for now, I'm going to say bye.